there's any indication that the rent increases were lower in re-election years. So I reviewed votes going all the way back to the Lindsay administration. And what I found is there's very little indication of that. The board is voting for smaller increases in a re-election year. So in 1989, the board voted for an increase of 5.5% when Mayor Koch was up for re-election. That was about the same as the previous year. He ended up losing to David Dinkins. 1993, when Dinkins was up for re-election, there was an increase of 3%. That was the exact same as the previous year. He lost. A little different from Mayor Bloomberg. During his 12-year tenure, they saw an average annual rent increase of about 3.1%. But in the years he was up for re-election, the board voted for increases of just 2.25 and 2.5%. And then there's de Blasio, whose boards famously froze the rent 3 times, but not actually in his re-election year of 2017.
WNYC housing reporter David Brand. David, thanks for this.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
WNYC is a media partner of the Public Theater Shakespeare in the Park, presenting Twelfth Night, directed by Shaheem Ali, reopening the revitalized Delacorte Theater in Central Park beginning August 7th. Open to all. More at publictheater.org.
This is Michael Lowinger, co-host of On the Media. Did you know that you can live stream On the Media or explore archived episodes for free 24/7? Download or upgrade today at wnyc.org/app.
WNYC is supported by Rent.
Coming up on Morning Edition, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin on why he made an 11th hour decision to join the Senate majority in voting for President Trump's spending agenda. That's in about 15 minutes right here on WNYC. 75 out there right now with bright sunshine. On our way to a partly sunny day, another warm one or hot one, 87 with a calm wind. And then tonight we have a 50-50 chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly after 8 o'clock, and a low temperature of 75. It is 6:52 and you're listening to Morning Edition on WNYC.
The Supreme Court weighs in on Obamacare again.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer in for David Brancaccio. The Supreme Court released an important decision involving the Affordable Care Act last week. It involves what types of preventive care can be mandated for coverage as part of health insurance plans and who gets to decide that. Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman joins me now with the details.
Hi, Nancy.
So the Affordable Care Act has ended up in front of the Supreme Court 3 times before this. What was this case about?
Well, it was basically a dispute about what kinds of preventive health care, so that screenings, medications, and treatments have to be covered for free as part of private health insurance plans. It was an argument brought by conservative opponents. They claimed that the federal task force of independent medical experts that was set up to determine that mandatory bundle of preventive health care was itself unconstitutional. And in a 6-3 decision, the court upheld the task force's authority, meaning that a bunch of preventive care will continue to be mandated.
So what are we talking about here? What types of care?
Well, the plaintiffs, a group of employers and individuals, objected in particular to having to pay for coverage of things like PrEP, which is a pre-exposure prophylactic treatment that can be used to prevent HIV transmission. But under this ruling, the task force's inclusion of that treatment is legal because the task force itself is constitutional.
So what else is at stake here then?
Well, advocates for preventive care are cheering because, by extension, a whole range of care is also upheld and free. So that's cancer and diabetes screening, meds for stroke prevention and heart health, even ointments given to newborns to prevent eye infections.
Well, thanks, Mitchell.
You're welcome.
With a big travel period coming up this 4th of July weekend, some travelers will be swapping pricier, busier destinations for lesser-known locations with a similar vibe, like, say, Albania instead of Italy. These are called destination dupes, and they're among this year's travel trends. Marketplace's Elizabeth Troval reports.
Sometimes a dupe can be better than the original. That was true for Mary Hines Drosch with Bank of America. After she went to the crowded, expensive Greek island of Santorini, she checked out its lesser-known counterpart, Poros.
I got a really nice hotel at a fraction of the cost. The food was just as great, and really immersed myself in the Greek culture at a much lower price.
Millennials are leading this trend, according to Bank of America survey data. 6 in 10 say they'd choose a budget-friendly destination over a more popular spot.
Everyone has felt the impact of inflation, and travel has become very, very expensive. And so when you do something that's lesser known, it's less expensive, and that helps.
And you don't have to go abroad to experience the destination dupe. Melanie Fish with Expedia recommends Charleston, South Carolina.
It's Europe without the jet lag. It has that Lisbon charm and elegance, but no passport required.
She says the hunt for a just as cool hidden gem is an enduring trend, one that's been amplified by social media. I'm Elizabeth Troval for Marketplace.
Let's do the numbers. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up in the 4 to 0.6% range. The 10-year Treasury yield is down at 4.25%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
Lawyers all over the country spent the weekend sorting out what the latest Supreme Court rulings will mean for the U.S. and the economy. One of Friday's decisions limits the circumstances under which lower courts can issue nationwide injunctions. The case was about the executive order related to birthright citizenship, but Marketplace's Kimberly Adams reports there are also consequences for businesses and consumers.
The Supreme Court didn't outright ban lower courts from putting a nationwide stop on federal policies while the cases play out, but the majority argues class action lawsuits are a better way to make that happen. Andre Harris is general counsel at the Competitive Enterprise Institute.
If the class is big enough, they can still get a national injunction. But the court's ruling just helps narrowly tailor injunctions for those who should be properly covered.
Before, let's say there was a business rule or environmental regulation a bunch of people or businesses didn't like. A group representing them could go to court and seek a nationwide injunction on their behalf.
Groups such as the Sierra Club or the ACLU that have members across the entire nation say, we as entities aren't being harmed by this legal provision, but our members are.
Michael T. Morley is a law professor at Florida State University.
And so we're suing to enforce our members' rights. We have lots of members. They're spread across the entire country.
But now the Supreme Court wants lower courts to limit their rulings to the people actually involved in the case and to be careful about what constitutes a class. So moving forward,
we may see multiple injunctions applying only to named plaintiffs.
Becca Brett is an associate at the law firm Clifford Chance,
which could result in kind of a fragmented judicial environment, causing businesses to have to react in different ways depending on which jurisdiction they're in.
Whereas in the past, a trade association could get a nationwide injunction by arguing that a bunch of businesses could be harmed by something, now it looks like individual businesses would have to get together in a class and really prove they would be harmed to argue for a broader hold on a policy.
We're going to see a lot more class actions in the future on behalf of businesses, which may sound ironic because we always hear about businesses defending against plaintiff class actions.
Anthony Sanders is with the Institute for Justice, a nonprofit public interest law firm.
That's not always practical, though. Class actions add all kinds of costs to lawsuits.
With all the extra costs and paperwork, Sanders expects what's more likely to happen is that fewer people and companies will even bother challenging policies at all. In Washington, I'm Kimberly Adams for Marketplace.
In a Fox News interview on Sunday, President Trump said he's found a buyer for TikTok. He said the unnamed buyer was a group of very wealthy people. He went on to say the deal is still developing and would probably need China's approval. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer with the Marketplace Morning Report. From 8 p.m., American Public Media.